Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing a rapid but rigorous look at a week that really shook things up in the NBA.
Yeah, a lot happened.
We're talking a massive star relocation, a night where it felt like every game ended with a buzzer beater, and a close look at what happens when a team's depth just evaporates.
And we've pulled from a ton of sources here. Front office reporting, post-game analysis, to give you the real context behind the headlines.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the domino that fell midweek.
A pretty shocking one.
The news dropped, and it was a genuine surprise. Trae Young traded from the Atlanta Hawks to the Washington Wizards.
The deal was basically Young to D.C., with Atlanta getting back veteran guard C.J. McCollum and forward Corey Kispert.
And the initial reaction, especially coming out of Atlanta, was just confusion.
Yeah.
Trading a guy who led you to the conference finals, a player who's on their Mount Rushmore, and the return felt, pretty underwhelming.
And that underwhelming part is the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
The Hawks' main goal here wasn't getting the best player back right now.
It was about money.
It was about financial restructuring, asset flexibility. They managed to get off Young's huge contract without giving up any of their future draft picks, which was a huge priority for them.
And there was that stat floating around that they were actually better this year when he wasn't on the floor.
Exactly, which points to a bigger fit issue. So they bring in McCollum and Kispert.
So how do they fit in if it's all about the future?
Well, they stabilize things. They help you win games now. McCollum is an experienced scorer. Kispert's a great shooter.
But Kispert isn't exactly a young guy anymore, right?
Not really. He's turning 27 soon, and he's a notoriously poor defender, so he's not like a long-term core piece.
So they took on those contracts just to get the deal done.
They did, because the real prize for them is the flexibility this creates for what comes next.
Which is the pursuit of Anthony Davis from Dallas. That's the big rumor.
That's the big target. But this is where it gets interesting.
Because they're resisting including their best assets, like their former #1 pick, Zachary Riesacker, or that crucial 2026 Pelicans pick.
They view Riesacker as pretty much untouchable. He's already averaging almost 11 points a game, and they see him as a cornerstone.
Okay, so explain that Pelicans pick for everyone. Why is it so valuable?
It's all about the potential. First, it's unprotected. That means Atlanta gets it no matter how bad or good New Orleans is.
And right now, the Pelicans are not good.
They're 8-29. An 8-29 team has, extremely high lottery odds. So that pick could very easily become a top 3 selection in a couple of years.
You just don't trade an asset like that lightly.
You don't. Not unless you're getting a guaranteed MVP level guy back. So they're holding that leverage for a bigger swing later.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's flip to the other side. Why were the Wizards reportedly stoked about this?
Because for Washington, this is an incredible asset flip. They get a 4-time All-Star, a guy who averages 10 assists for basically nothing.
And they see McCollum's contract and Kispert's deal as just the cost of doing business?
An acceptable risk to land Trae Young. He immediately makes their young guys better. Their lottery pick, Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson.
They finally have a real point guard to set them up.
A real floor general. I mean, look at the chain of events. They trade Beal, get picks and Chris Paul, flip those assets, and now they land Young on his current contract. That's a massive upgrade.
It's fascinating. One team's problem becomes another team's foundation. Speaking of instability, let's move from the boardroom to the pure chaos on the court. We had a night this week that was just packed with insane finishes.
Just clutch chaos everywhere. But the biggest one had to be the Orlando Magic's overtime win against the Nets, 104-103.
And the hero was Paolo Banchero.
He hits a banked-in, game-winning three-pointer right at the buzzer. It was just an unbelievable shot.
And his numbers were huge. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. A monster game.
It was. But here's the bitter truth. They only needed that miracle because they completely fell apart.
Because they blew an 18-point lead in the second half.
An 18-point lead. They were up 15 going into the third and scored only 14 points in the entire fourth quarter.
It really brings up that old saying, good teams don't win close games, they avoid them.
Exactly. And Banchero also had 9 turnovers. So as great as the shot was, it was covering up some serious issues with their consistency.
So is it heroic, or is it just fixing your own mistake at the last second?
It's a great question.
Now contrast that with the Raptors' win over the Hornets. A different kind of trauma.
A total redemption story.
Yeah.
Emanuel Quickley hits the game winner, for a 97-96 win.
And what made it so special was that he had just given up the go-ahead basket like 1.6 seconds earlier.
Yes, and on top of that, he was having a horrible night from three. I think he was 2 for 10 before he hit that last shot.
But the Raptors weren't in that position because of a collapse. They were there because R.J. Barrett absolutely carried them in the fourth.
Absolutely. Barrett was the engine. He had 16 points in the fourth quarter alone. He put them in the position to win, and Quickley's shot was just the final touch.
So one was a necessary Hail Mary. The other was the punctuation on a great quarter.
A perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the other close calls.
OKC needed a huge shot from Shai just to get to overtime against the Jazz.
Yeah, on a night where the team shot, 7 for 38 from three? Just awful. And then Chet Holmgren had to take over an OT to get them the win.
And what about that Blazers-Rockets ending? Portland intentionally fouls up by 3.
It always causes a stir, but it's the right play mathematically. You take the three-point shot off the table.
And it worked. Tari Eason's tip-in was a fraction of a second too late.
His hand was still on the ball at the buzzer. A smart, if controversial, coaching move.
That idea of efficiency, or the lack of it, brings us to our last topic. The Lakers losing to the Spurs, 107-91. A game that showed just how much depth matters.
Yeah, the Lakers were in a really tough spot. They were very, very shorthanded.
LeBron was out for maintenance on a back-to-back.
Which is pretty standard for him. But Austin Reaves and Rui Hachimura were out too.
So one guy had to carry an absolutely insane load.
And he did. Luka Doncic's performance was staggering. He had 38 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, a massive triple-double.
And to really show the dependency at halftime, he was responsible for scoring or assisting on something like 39 of the team's first 40-something points.
He was literally their entire offense. But even a genius like him has his limits.
And you could see those limits clearly. The rest of the team was just starved for offense.
Jake LaRavia was the next highest scorer with 16. And nobody else even got to double figures. The whole team shot, 23% from three? It was brutal.
But what's really interesting is that Coach JJ came out after and called it a positive experience.
Yeah, he did. Because it wasn't about a lack of effort. The guys who played, they played hard. Their defense was solid. Their transition defense was excellent.
It was purely a lack of offensive firepower.
Exactly. And that situation actually brought out a really interesting change in Doncic.
Yeah, sources noted he totally changed his on-court personality.
He did. He's famous for constantly complaining to the refs, but in this game, he cut way back on that. Instead, he was calling guys together, being a vocal leader.
He knew he had to be the emotional anchor, not just the guy scoring all the points.
It showed a ton of maturity.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this loss showed them exactly where their weak spots are.
For sure. And now they've got this really critical 5-game stretch coming up against teams that are all under .50.
Milwaukee, the Kings, Hawks, Charlotte, and the Blazers.
They absolutely have to treat this as a workman's stretch. No nights off. The expectation is they need to win at least 4 of those 5.
To build some good habits before the schedule gets tough again.
Right, to build some momentum.
So what does this all mean? We saw star power carry such a heavy load this week. Trae Young moving to lift a franchise, Doncic trying to single-handedly win a game, Banchero hitting a miracle shot.
But the lesson seems to be the same.
Depth and consistency, the ability to avoid those crazy last-second moments, that's what's really king in this league.
Which leads to a final thought for you, the listener. We saw a bunch of teams win games because their stars hit these huge, heroic shots.
The Magic, the Raptors, the Thunder.
But when you consider a team like the Magic was up by 18, before they needed that banked-in buzzer beater, how much stock should we really put in celebrating that heroic win versus celebrating a team that's just consistent enough to avoid that pressure in the first place?
Thank you for listening. Please comment, like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, please leave 5-star review. It will help the channel grow. Happy New Year for all of our listeners. Until next time, please check our previous episodes.